The following is a paid program. The opinions are those of the host and guests and not necessarily those of the station or its management.
Welcome to iCommunicate on Full Service Radio, AM 830 WCRN. To join the conversation, call 508-871-7000. Now, here's your host, Mark Altman.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to iCommunicate, Finding Your Voice on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. My special guest today is former NBA center James Donaldson, who played for 15 seasons, 5 different teams, and wrapped up his career on the Harlem Globetrotters, no less. So, James, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, Mark, thank you so much, you and your audience, and just a pleasure to be here.
So, James, before we get into anything important today, I just got to make sure with the World Series going on, are you? I need to know who you're rooting for.
Well, typically, I'm not a big baseball fan, but typically I check in around the third and fourth game of the World Series. So I'll start watching starting the next game, and but I don't have a dog in this fight, really. I'm just watching it for the sake of watching good baseball.
Fair enough. That sounds fine. So James, I want to just talk about, get into your playing career a little bit. And, it was funny. I remember you playing an integral role in the Mavericks teams in the 80s. And, I was looking back in the 87-88 finals, and that was the closest you got, I believe, to winning a championship. And I guess I want to ask, a lot of times in sports, we talk about preparation and mindset before games. And you hear, James, a lot of times people talk about when a team gets blown out, that they're going to be angry the next game, or they're going to play harder, or if it's a game 7, you're going to bring a different mentality. Are those fallacies? Do you come to the same mindset each game, or is it different?
No, you have to find that level of consistency because there's going to be games you win, there's going to be a lot of games you lose, and you've got to be able to approach the next coming up game with a clear head, a clear focus, and you can't let emotions get the best of you, because that's when things really start going awry, which kind of lends into a lot of the stuff we'll be talking about, Mark. Competitive athletes, we learn to put on this game face. We learn to put on this tough exterior when inside, we're just like everybody else. And so when those playing days are over and it's time to reach out for some help with other folks in your life, a lot of the guys have difficulty doing that. So this is one of the things that I'm embarking upon. But to answer your question, yeah, you've got to really stay consistent, approach each game just as it is another game. And if you got blew out the night before, you got to forget about that. And if you won by 30 or 40 points the night before, you got to forget about that. And here's a new game and a new challenge right in front of you.
So, James, I want to talk about. I want to build on what you just said. So, during your playing career, you played with a couple of guys, Marcus Johnson and Roy Tarpley, who had addiction and dependency issues. And as you grew up in your background, was that your earliest exposure to being around people, or did you deal with some of that growing up in school and with your family, or any of that background?
I wasn't really aware of a lot of that. That's never been my particular choice of lifestyle, to engage in any kind of substance abuses or anything, whether it's drugs or alcohol. I think the first time I noticed that, guys did indulge in different kind of things was when I was at Washington State University. We had great players. There were always guys who were a little bit troubled, who needed different vices to get them through, or at least they thought they did. And they resorted to those vices, and many times very detrimental to their careers. And you mentioned Marcus Johnson, Roy Tarpley. Another wonderful player and teammate of mine I had through the years was David Thompson. The Skywalker from North Carolina State. Thompson. He was one of the nicest guys in the world. Would give you the shirt off his back, and he just fell prey to so many people leeching onto him, wanting things from him. He engaged in a lot of the alcohol and drug problems as well. And it's really sad to see, because typically the 3 guys we mentioned are 3 of the nicest guys you've ever want to meet. Marcus, Roy, who unfortunately passed away in 2015, and David Thompson are 3 of the nicest guys, nicest teammates I've ever been around.
So, James, things are really evolving and changing. You know, you look at the word stigma, and in mental health, it's such a powerful word. And, you know, in the last year or so, we've seen Kevin Love and DeMar DeRozan come out and advocate for themselves. And recently, we just saw Everson Griffin of the Vikings. So, how are we improving, James? I mean, is that the beginning to real progress, or in your mind, we're not even close? We have a long way to go.
Well, I think it's the beginning of something. I think bringing awareness to the fact that other folks have gone through something like this is definitely beneficial to society as a whole. But, you know, I've got a whole list of celebrity athletes and entertainers, probably dozens and dozens of them, who have gone through one type of mental issue after another. Unfortunately, I don't know a lot of times if the general public can really relate to these folks and these lifestyles that they've lived. I'm trying to be as real as possible with my situation and just let folks know that, yes, once upon a time I was a great NBA player, but here we are 20 years after the fact, and now I'm a middle-aged man going into retirement soon, and I had my whole world turned upside down. Nothing because of what I did. I didn't drink. I didn't smoke. I didn't do drugs. It was personal relationships. It was business finances. It was IRS situation. It was my health. All these things accumulated at the same time that really caused my world to go upside down. So that's what I think the average public, Joe public, can really identify with. Not so much, you know, living a high lifestyle, spending thousands of dollars a month or a week on drugs and alcohol. No, most people don't do that. But most people will have something in their life that goes totally upside down beyond their control.
So James, I want to read something from one of your blogs or one of your posts that really was what compelled me to reach out to you. I want our audience to hear this because it really speaks to your character and your goals and mission, how you're trying to help others. So it says, men need not to suffer in silence or drown our sorrows in alcohol, hang out at bars or strip joints, or get involved with drug use. Having gone through a recent bout of depression and suicidal thoughts myself, I realize now that I can make a huge difference in the lives of so many by sharing your story. So I want to understand, James, it had to have taken you a lot of courage because, again, it's still not really out there. So what was that decision like to come out and share that story? I mean, yes, you wanted to help people, but were you just sitting there one day and said, I need to do this? Or share with us what that process was like.
Well, the beginning of me entering into that very dark and terrible place was last Thanksgiving, 2017. All of a sudden, I couldn't sleep through the night, 4 or 5 nights of not being able to sleep, of waking up at 1:30, 2 in the morning. My mind is racing 100 miles an hour, and I have two options. One is to keep on trying to get through what I'm going through, business closures, financial problems, personal relationships, or the other is to just check out, exit, and end my own life, which was a real possibility as well. It scared me. It really scared me. I reached out to my doctor. I thought he was just going to prescribe a simple sleeping pill for me to help me sleep through the night. Once he heard what I had been through, he said, James, wait a minute, you have got some big, big issues you're dealing with. Anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts and tendencies. These are things we have to get under control. And he, even though I'm not a big prescription medication advocate, he prescribed some prescription medications, antidepressant, anti-anxiety, and I never really felt that they worked. I took them because he wanted me to take them. I'm still taking them. It wasn't like I had a drastic change of emotions or a drastic change of outlook on life. I wasn't jumping buildings in a single bound all of a sudden with all this newfound energy. Nothing changed.
Right.
But I still take the medication because he prescribes it. And so, but that really was the beginning of me entering into that dark place. there were days, Mark, I really did not think I was going to make it to Christmas Day, from Thanksgiving to Christmas Day. It was so bleak. It was so dark. I was going not day by day, but hour by hour. If I can just make it through this next hour, if I can just try to get a good night's sleep. And then in mid-January, a student athlete at my alma mater, Washington State University, Tyler Helinski, took his own life.
Oh.
And he was just nominated, just given the nod to be the starting quarterback for this year's WSU football team.
Wow.
He was on a family vacation 5 days prior to this incident. The family said he looked totally fine. He acted totally fine. He went back to WSU, Washington State University, took a gun, unbeknownst to a friend of his, stole a gun from one of his friends, and shot himself in his apartment.
Wow.
All of a sudden, everybody's scrambling around trying to tell Tyler's story, how wonderful of a guy he was, how great of a teammate he was. And that just shook me to my inner core right then and there. And I woke up the next morning after Tyler took his life, and I said, hey, I've got to hang in there. I want to be around to tell my story. I don't want everybody running around all of a sudden trying to tell my story. And that's really what started shaking me out of the dark, deep, depressing thoughts and life that I was in, was when Tyler did that to himself. And so I woke up with a newfound mission in life to be a spokesperson and an advocate for mental health awareness. I still had some work to do and still kept on plugging away the next 2 or 3 or 4 months. But now I feel like I'm finally well on the other side of all of this. But even a couple of days ago, I was posting on Facebook that, hey, I was having one of those down and depressing days and just feeling really blah. And I went and visited an elderly friend of mine at an assisted living home, and it made all the difference in the world for me to be with him, to share my story with him. It lifted my spirit. It lifted his spirit. And that's what we need to do, continue reaching out to each other.
So, James, we're going to go to commercial. We're with James Donaldson, former NBA center and advocate for mental health. I'm Mark Altman. This is iCommunicate, Finding Your Voice, and we'll be back right after the break.